High Ambassador Lara adjusted her translucent robes as her shuttle approached the primitive world called Earth. After 2,000 years of first contact missions, she had mastered the art of introducing lesser species to galactic civilization. Her mandibles clicked in amusement as she reviewed the preliminary data. These humans had barely achieved nuclear fission a century ago. Ambassador, we're detecting multiple artificial signatures throughout the system, her pilot reported, antenna twitching nervously. Expected. They're primitive satellites. Lara froze as holographic displays materialized around her. Hundreds of ships, sophisticated orbital platforms, and was that a city on Mars? Unidentified vessel. This is Commander Maya Jackson of the Solar Defense Fleet. Hold position for inspection. Lara's translator glitched. The message hadn't come through the standard first contact frequencies. It had come in perfect high Galactic, the encrypted language of the Council itself. Impossible, she whispered, watching a sleek vessel approach. Its design was unlike anything she'd seen. Not beautiful like Arcanian ships or brutally efficient like Vencrafts. It looked adaptable, modular, ready to be reconfigured at a moment's notice. Ambassador. Commander Jackson's image appeared, a dark-skinned human female wearing a pragmatic uniform. Welcome to Sol System. We've been expecting the Council for some time now. You? Know of the Council. Lara fought to maintain her diplomatic composure. Maya's smile reminded Lara of a predator. We've been intercepting your communications for decades. Fascinating languages. Our linguists had quite the challenge. Would you like to discuss this over coffee? It's a traditional human diplomatic beverage. The next 12 hours shattered every assumption Lara had brought to Earth. The shuttle tour took her over arcologies that housed millions in self-sustaining comfort. Magnetic levitation trains crossed continents in hours. And that was just Earth. Mars took her breath away. Vast dome cities stretched across the red plains, connected by underground transit networks. Hydroponics farms fed millions. Universities researched technologies that the Council had deemed theoretically impossible. How? Lara finally asked, as they watched a Martian sunset from the observatory dome of Olympic University. Other species take centuries just to establish lunar bases. Necessity, imagination, and caffeine. Maya replied, sipping her fifth coffee. Mostly necessity. Earth was dying when we started pushing hard into space. We didn't have centuries to perfect every step. We had to adapt or die. But the resources required. We learned to recycle everything, Ambassador. Those Mars colonies, built largely from Earth's landfills, we turned our trash into treasure because we had to. Then we got good at it. Really good. Lara watched a group of students pass by, humans and robots working seamlessly together. The Council believes AIs are too dangerous to grant autonomy. We almost made that mistake too, Maya admitted. Then we realized treating them as slaves would just guarantee rebellion. So we treated them as partners instead. Turns out most AIs are quite reasonable when you respect their rights and give them purpose. The tour ended at the Solar Defense Fleet headquarters, a sprawling complex carved into Olympus Mons. Lara watched training exercises that demonstrated human ships pulling maneuvers her species would consider suicidal. Your pilots, she observed. They take incredible risks. We test our limits, Maya corrected. Every crazy maneuver you see was practiced thousands of times in simulators. We push boundaries systematically. In her private quarters that night, Lara composed her report to the Council. Her claws hovered over the encrypted terminal as she struggled to convey the implications of what she'd seen. Humanity defies conventional assessment, she wrote. They lack our longevity, our physical strength, our unified purpose. Yet they have turned these apparent weaknesses into advantages. They adapt because they must. They innovate because they are impatient. They cooperate because they are individually vulnerable. She paused, considering the final warning carefully. Most concerning is their hunger. Not for conquest or resources, but for knowledge, for improvement, for tomorrow. They're not just ready for the stars. They're hungry for them, and I fear that hunger may change the galaxy forever. Lyra sent the message, knowing it would cause panic in the council chambers. Then she did something unprecedented in her diplomatic career. She requested permanent assignment to Earth as the council's ambassador. Because Lyra had seen something during her tour that scared her more than humanity's rapid advancement. She'd seen how many empty chairs they sat at their diplomatic tables, how many gaps they left in their formations, how many extra rooms they built in their universities. They were expecting more visitors, not just from the council, but from everywhere. Humanity wasn't joining galactic civilization. They were preparing to transform it. Sarah Chen hadn't slept in 53 hours when the first wormhole nearly tore her ship apart. The Serpent's Run lived up to its reputation, a twisting chain of unstable spatial anomalies that had claimed more ships than any war in recent galactic history. Warning: structural integrity at 67%. Her co-pilot, Max, announced with irritating calm. Sarah blinked hard, fighting the hallucinations that danced at the edge of her vision. The cargo hold behind her contained enough medical nanites to save 10,000 colonists on New Providence. Without the medicine, the alien virus would claim them all within a week. The standard route would take 4 days. The Serpent's Run could get her there in 3, if it didn't kill her first. Next anomaly in 40 seconds, Max reported. Recommended course adjustment, none available. All paths show fatal probability. Sarah gulped down another stimulant and managed a grim smile. Fatal for standard ships, Max. Show me the sensor data. The holographic display bloomed around her. The wormhole ahead twisted like a living thing, its gravitational forces defying normal spacetime. Standard procedure, developed by species who could pilot for only a few hours at a time, was to plot a safe course through sensor data. Sarah had a better idea. Switch to real-time rendering, she ordered. I'm going to surf it. That course of action is suicide, Max stated. No organic pilot has the reaction speed. No pilot who needs sleep, Sarah corrected. But humans, we can microsleep. Process data even when we're not fully conscious. Show me the currents, Max. The display shifted, showing gravitational flows like ocean currents. Sarah's tired mind made the connection instantly. She'd been a surfer before becoming a pilot. Physics was physics, whether riding waves or wormholes. She rode the first gravitational wave perfectly, her ship skimming the edge of destructive forces. The second nearly crushed her ship. By the third, she'd found the rhythm. That's when the pirates attacked. Multiple ships decloaking, Max announced. Signs consistent with the Black Star Syndicate. Sarah's laugh had a manic edge. Of course. The perfect place for ambush. No witnesses, no rescue. She keyed the emergency beacon, then killed it. Max, how many ships? 4. Heavy weapons. They're demanding we heave to for boarding. Another wormhole loomed ahead. Sarah did the math through her stimulant-addled haze. Broadcast on all frequencies. To the Black Star ships. Look at my cargo manifest. Look at my destination. I'm carrying medicine, you bastards. Let me through. The response came instantly. Nanites are valuable. Heave to or die. Sarah's smile would have scared her if she could see it. Max, dump our sensor data to their ships. Show them exactly what I've been doing to their precious, impossible run. A pause. Then panic in the pirate captain's voice. You're insane. No one flies through the run like. I'm human, Sarah interrupted. And I've been awake for 54 hours now. I'm riding wormholes on stimulants and microsleep. Want to see what happens when I stop caring about survival. She cut transmission and aimed straight for the heart of the next wormhole. The pirates, with their well-rested crews and carefully plotted courses, couldn't follow. The next 16 hours became a blur of gravitational forces, hallucinations, and Max's increasingly concerned warnings about her mental state. Somewhere around hour 60, she started seeing colors in gravity and could taste time. She also lost any ability to feel fear. When she finally dropped out of the last wormhole into New Providence's system, Sarah had been awake for 72 hours. Her ship had structural damage in 37 places. The pirates were long gone, having chosen to face their employer's wrath rather than follow the insane human. The colonists got their medicine. Sarah slept for 2 days straight, and when she woke up, she found 19 messages from various shipping corporations offering her ridiculous sums of money to train their pilots. She turned them all down and instead started her own shipping company. Within a year, she had a fleet of human pilots specializing in impossible runs. They charged premium rates, took impossible jobs, and slowly changed the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. The aliens eventually developed better autopilots and safer routes through the run. But they never forgot the story of the human who surfed wormholes on no sleep and scared off pirates by being crazier than they were. Sarah did the run a dozen more times in her career, but she always smiled when asked about that first time, because it wasn't skill or technology that got her through. It was that uniquely human ability to be just crazy enough to try the impossible, too stubborn to quit, and too wired on stimulants to realize that what they were doing shouldn't work. The medicine saved 10,000 colonists. The legend saved countless more by showing the galaxy that impossible was just another word for hasn't met humanity yet. Dr. James Okonjo stood before the Galactic Science Academy's review board, trying not to fidget as 6 different alien species stared at him with various expressions of disbelief and disdain. His proposal lay between them, its mere existence apparently offensive to their scientific sensibilities. You propose, the Arcanian speaker's crystalline form shimmered with barely contained irritation, to combine quantum fold technology with thermal mass drivers and psychic resonance fields. Yes, James replied, fighting to keep his excitement from showing. The Academy valued decorum above all else. The theoretical model suggest. Theoretical models created by human AI systems, interrupted a Venn scientist, their cybernetic eyes whirring as they focused on James. Systems barely a century old, attempting to model technologies we have perfected over millennia. James took a deep breath. With respect, that's exactly the problem. You've perfected these technologies individually, but has anyone tried combining them? Because they are incompatible. The Arcanian's crystal structure turned deep red. The energetic resonance patterns would cause immediate cascade failures. This is known. Known. James agreed, but not tested. Not really. He brought up his own holographic display, showing the fabrication lab he'd assembled back on Mars, which is why I brought my own testing facility. And my team. The doors opened, and 5 humans walked in. The Academy board recoiled slightly at their appearance, where Academy scientists wore formal robes and moved with careful precision. James's team looked like they'd just crawled out of a mechanical bay. Which, to be fair, they had. Meet humanity's finest failure experts, James announced with pride. Dr. Sarah Rodriguez, who's blown up more prototype engines than anyone in human space. Dr. Chen Wei, whose spectacular quantum computer failures revealed 3 new particles. Dr. Failure experts. The Venn scientist's tone conveyed deep confusion. Of course, James grinned. How else do you learn? Theory is great, but human science. We learn by breaking things, spectacularly. The next week changed the Academy forever. James's team turned the pristine testing facility into what looked like a war zone. They blew up equipment, created small temporary black holes, and once managed to turn an entire chamber into a quantum probability cloud where time ran backwards for 37 seconds. The Academy observers watched in horror as the humans cheerfully documented each failure, high-fived over particularly spectacular explosions, and gradually refined their approach through what appeared to be controlled chaos. This isn't science, protested the Arcanian after a particularly dramatic test, turned half their equipment into abstract art. This is progress. James finished, reviewing the data streams. Look at these readings. The quantum field didn't collapse instantly like your models predicted. It lasted 0.3 seconds. Why? Because the thermal mass driver's containment field. The Venn scientists stopped, their cybernetic eyes widening. That's impossible. The resonance should have. Should have, James agreed. But didn't. And now we know why. He pointed to a particular data stream. The psychic resonance field isn't fighting the quantum fold. It's dancing with it. On day 6, they had their first success. It lasted exactly 2.7 seconds before melting through 3 floors of the facility. The Academy board was horrified. James's team celebrated with cheap coffee and expensive whiskey. On day 7, they stabilized the field for 17 seconds. 3 different fundamental laws of physics had to be rewritten. On day 8, the impossible happened. The combined technologies didn't just work. They worked better together than apart. The quantum fold's efficiency increased by 300%. The thermal mass driver's power consumption dropped by 60%. And the psychic resonance field expanded its range by an order of magnitude. How? The Arcanian finally asked, their crystalline form shifting through colors of confusion. We spent centuries perfecting each component. That's just it, James explained, running on caffeine and excitement. Perfection is the enemy of progress. You refined each technology until it couldn't be improved. We just proved it could be improved by making it play with others. The implications spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. Suddenly, incompatible technologies were being combined everywhere. Human failure experts became the most sought-after consultants in known space. The age of perfection gave way to the age of integration. James received the Academy's highest honor, which he promptly broke during his acceptance speech. The Academy, finally learning to appreciate human approaches, laughed. The real victory wasn't the technology. It was teaching the galaxy that failure wasn't just acceptable, it was necessary. That perfection wasn't a goal, but a cage. That progress came not from refining the known, but from daring to try the impossible. And if you broke a few labs along the way, well, that was just the sound of progress being made, humanity style. The Swarm Collective had never known defeat. Their hive mind controlled millions of warrior drones, each one expendable, all unified in purpose. They had consumed 17 worlds before turning their attention to the human colony on Titan's Hope. Admiral Helena Torres watched their approach on the tactical display, her dark eyes reflecting the red dots of the incoming swarm ships. The colony's civilian population had been evacuated underground, leaving only her defense force and her plan. They've never faced humans before, she told her command staff. They think numbers are everything. Let's teach them differently. The swarm's first wave hit the orbital defenses exactly as expected. Their ships sacrificed themselves by the hundreds to overwhelm the colony's conventional defenses. The collective's shared consciousness registered satisfaction as their tactics proved successful once again. That satisfaction turned to confusion when they encountered no resistance on their descent to the surface. No ground-based weapons fired. No defenders met them in the valleys. Where are your warriors? The swarm's resonant consciousness demanded over all frequencies, face us and be consumed. Admiral Torres' response was a single text message. Look up. The mining charges detonated simultaneously. Thousands of them, buried in the mountain ridges surrounding the landing zones. The swarm had assumed the massive excavations around the colony were for resource extraction. Instead, Torres had turned the entire valley into a killbox. Millions of tons of rock crushed the first wave, but that was just the beginning. The swarm's second wave encountered something new. Fear. Individual drones began reporting conflicting data through the hive mind. Human warriors appeared and disappeared in the dust clouds, using powered armor that let them move faster than swarm sensors could track. Impossible. The collective consciousness declared, "They are prey. Prey does not fight like this." The humans had turned the colony's industrial infrastructure into weapons. Mining lasers, designed to cut through rock, slice through swarm armor. Electromagnetic ore separators became improvised railguns. Maintenance robots reprogrammed for combat skittered through the debris, planting charges and sabotaging swarm equipment. But it was the psychological warfare that truly broke them. The swarm operated on perfect unity, all drones sharing one mind, one purpose. They had never encountered an enemy that fought independently, that had thousands of different approaches to killing them. Every human soldier fought differently. Some laid traps. Others used the terrain. A particularly creative Marine reprogrammed cleaning bots to spray the swarm's bioengineered armor with industrial solvent. Torres coordinated it all from her mobile command center, redirecting forces not according to some grand strategy, but to enable maximum chaos. She gave her soldiers simple objectives and let them figure out how to achieve them. The swarm's unified consciousness became their weakness. Every drone death, every surprising tactic, every human innovation rippled through their entire force. For the first time in their history, the collective experienced trauma. The breaking point came when they realized the humans had weaponized the atmosphere itself. The colony's atmospheric processors had been recalibrated, creating zones of thick fog and areas of near vacuum. Swarm drones died by the thousands, their programmed tactics worse than useless in the shifting environmental conditions. "What are you?" the collective demanded as their forces retreated in disarray. Admiral Torres' response was broadcast system-wide. "We're humanity's children. We're what happens when you take Earth's apex predators and give them space travel. And we're what happens when you threaten our homes." The swarm retreated, their unified consciousness fractured by something they'd never experienced before: post-traumatic stress disorder. The experience of fighting humans had introduced chaos into their perfect unity. The galaxy's strategic analysts spent years studying the Battle of Titan's Hope. They focused on the tactics, the weaponry, the innovative use of industrial equipment. But they missed the real lesson. The humans hadn't won because they had better weapons or stronger soldiers. They'd won because every human soldier was an independent tactical engine, capable of innovation and adaptation. They'd won because humanity's greatest strength wasn't their unity of purpose, but their diversity of approach. Admiral Torres was promoted and given command of the sector fleet. The swarm never attacked another human colony. And in the decades that followed, researchers noted an interesting phenomenon. Some swarm drones began displaying individual traits, breaking from the collective consciousness. They called it an evolutionary response. Humanity hadn't just defeated the swarm, they'd infected them with independence. Marcus Wong hadn't planned on becoming a diplomat. His previous career as a professional gambler and occasional con artist hadn't exactly screamed future ambassador. But when the Galactic Council faced its biggest crisis in 10,000 years, they didn't need another traditional diplomat. They needed someone who understood chaos. The problem, Marcus explained to his AI assistant while preparing for the emergency summit, is that everyone's too formal, too predictable. The Arcanians and Ven have been following the same diplomatic protocols for so long they can't imagine alternatives. The crisis was simple. Both species claimed a newly discovered world rich in quantum-sensitive crystals. Traditional negotiations had failed. War seemed inevitable. Marcus's solution: throw out the diplomatic playbook entirely. He started by changing the summit's venue from the Council's austere chambers to Earth's most famous zero-gravity nightclub, the Floating Pearl. When the delegations arrived, expecting formal proceedings, they found pulsing music, holographic art, and cocktails that changed color based on the drinker's mood. This is unprecedented. The Arcanian ambassador's crystalline form flickered with outrage. This violates all protocols. Exactly, Marcus grinned, floating past with a tray of drinks. Protocol got us into this mess. Maybe chaos can get us out. The Ven ambassador's cybernetic eyes wared as they tried to process the scene. The human appears to be violating 17 different diplomatic codes. 18, actually, Marcus corrected. I'm also not wearing the proper ceremonial sash. Drink. The genius of his approach wasn't immediately apparent, but as the night progressed, something remarkable happened. In the zero-gravity environment, with traditional positions and formations impossible to maintain, the diplomats began to mingle. An Arcanian crystal scholar found herself in an impromptu debate about quantum harmonics with a Ven engineer. They discovered their theories complemented each other perfectly, but only when viewed from literally upside down. Marcus floated between groups, dropping seemingly casual comments that were actually carefully calculated to spark conversations. He'd studied both species extensively, learning that Arcanians processed information better with musical accompaniment, while Ven fought more creatively in zero gravity. The club's environment wasn't random. It was engineered for maximum diplomatic disruption. "You're manipulating us," the Ven ambassador accused after catching Marcus adjusting the music's harmony to match Arcanian neural patterns. "Of course," Marcus admitted cheerfully, "but I'm manipulating everyone equally. And more importantly, is it working?" It was. By violating every rule of diplomatic engagement, Marcus had forced both sides out of their traditional patterns. The quantum crystal dispute became just one topic among many as centuries of rigid diplomatic barriers began to crack. The breakthrough came at hour 6 when an intoxicated Arcanian scientist attempted to demonstrate crystal harmonics using drink glasses and accidentally discovered a new form of quantum entanglement. The Ven engineers present immediately recognized the implications. "The crystals," one of them announced. "They're not just rare. They're necessary for both our species' next technological evolution. We've been approaching this wrong." Marcus smiled and initiated Phase 2, a collaborative problem-solving exercise disguised as a party game. By the time the artificial dawn broke through the club's transparent dome, the two species had drafted a preliminary agreement for joint development of the crystal world. The formal treaty was signed 3 days later. Both species would share the world, combining Arcanian crystal harmonics with Ven quantum engineering to create technologies neither could have developed alone. "You turned diplomacy into a party game," the Council's chief administrator accused during the review. "No," Marcus corrected. "I reminded everyone that diplomacy is about people, or beings, not just protocols. Humans learned this centuries ago. Sometimes you need to shake things up to make people see new possibilities." The Council formally censured Marcus for his unorthodox methods. They also created a new diplomatic designation, Chaos Ambassador. Within a year, humanity's diplomatic course had transformed from a minor advisory role to the Council's go-to problem solvers for impossible situations. Marcus went on to resolve 17 major diplomatic crises, 3 potential wars, and 1 religious schism. His methods were never the same twice, but they always involved carefully calculated chaos. Because that was humanity's real diplomatic superpower, the ability to create order from chaos, and when necessary, to introduce just enough chaos to break old orders and create new ones. The Floating Pearl became the galaxy's most prestigious diplomatic venue. They never did find those missing ceremonial sashes. Yuki Tanaka stared at the holographic market projections floating above her desk, watching as red warning indicators spread like a virus through the galactic economy. She'd warned them this might happen. The alien trading houses have dismissed her concerns as primitive economic theory. Now they were calling her office every 30 seconds, demanding she fix what she'd broken. "Remind me," she asked her AI assistant, "how many times did we tell them that introducing futures trading without proper regulatory frameworks was dangerous?" 37 times. Director Tanaka, the AI replied. They insisted their quantum prediction engines made market crashes impossible. Yuki rubbed her temples. The galactic economy had been stable for millennia because it was simple. Direct trade, fixed values, no speculation. When humanity introduced concepts like derivatives and cryptocurrency, they'd thought their advanced technology would protect them from human-style market chaos. They'd been catastrophically wrong. "Show me the cascade pattern," she ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing how a single failed prediction in the quantum crystal futures market had triggered a chain reaction. The aliens' perfect prediction engines had never considered that traders might deliberately act against their own economic interests to manipulate markets. They'd never dealt with human day traders before. Her quantum phone chimed again. This time it was the Arcanian High Commissioner for Economic Stability, their crystalline form flickering with distress patterns. "The markets are behaving irrationally," they announced. "This defies all economic models." "Markets aren't rational," Yuki explained for what felt like the 1,000th time. "They're emotional. And you just got your first taste of human panic selling." She'd spent the last year trying to teach alien trading houses about market psychology, but they'd been too confident in their technology. Their quantum prediction engines could calculate trillion variable equations in microseconds, but they couldn't predict how a human trader might react to their spouse's bad mood. Now the entire galactic economy was learning about volatility the hard way. "Implement protocol chaos," she told her team. They'd prepared for this, even if no one had believed they'd need it. Across human space, specialized AI systems began buying and selling at carefully calculated patterns, introducing controlled instability into the market. It seemed counterintuitive, fighting chaos with more chaos, but Yuki had learned economics from the best crisis managers on Earth. Sometimes you had to make things worse to make them better. The alien markets reacted predictably, their quantum engines trying to impose order. That's when Yuki sprung her trap. As the prediction engines focused on the human-generated chaos, her team quietly began stabilizing key market sectors using traditional human economic tools. "Director," her assistant reported, "the Venn Trading Consortium is accusing us of market manipulation." "Send them the definition of irony," Yuki replied, watching as her strategy unfolded. "And remind them whose quantum prediction engines were caught trying to artificially inflate crystal prices last quarter." The crisis peaked 18 hours later. The galactic economy didn't crash, but it changed forever. The alien trading houses were forced to admit that their perfect prediction engines had blind spots. More importantly, they had to acknowledge that human economic theory, developed through centuries of boom and bust cycles, had value. Yuki spent the next month helping draft new galactic trading regulations. The aliens insisted on keeping their quantum prediction engines, but they also hired human economic advisors to watch for psychological factors the machines might miss. The result was a hybrid economy that combined the best of both approaches. The aliens learned to appreciate the value of controlled market volatility, while humans gained access to technology that made Earth's best economic models look like Stone Age tools. "You knew this would happen," the Arcanian High Commissioner accused during the final regulatory session. "You deliberately introduced destabilizing elements to force modernization of our economic system." "Of course," Yuki admitted. "We tried warning you. When that failed, we had to show you. Humans learned our economic lessons through centuries of crashes and recoveries. We gave you the chance to learn from our mistakes. When you refused, we helped you make your own." The galaxy's economy emerged stronger, more flexible, and more resilient. The quantum prediction engines learned to account for irrational human behavior. Human traders learned to use alien technology to better understand market patterns. And Yuki, she became the first human appointed to the Council's Economic Advisory Board. Her first action was to introduce a radical new concept to galactic finance: stress testing. Because sometimes the best way to prevent a disaster is to create a small one first, under controlled conditions. It was a very human approach to problem solving. The aliens never did fully understand human day traders, but they learned to respect them and to watch their markets very, very carefully when human psychology reports showed increased coffee consumption in major trading centers. Keks had spent 3 centuries perfecting the traditional art forms of their species. They had mastered every approved variation of crystalline harmonic sculpture, achieved the highest certification in quantum resonance painting, and earned the title of Grand Master in temporal echo composition. Then they experienced human virtual reality, and everything they knew about art became meaningless. "This is wrong," they whispered, their crystalline form vibrating with confusion as they removed the neural interface helmet. "Art should perfect existing forms. Not what?" asked Sarah Chen, the human art curator who'd introduced them to VR. "Not create new ones. Not break boundaries. Not make you feel things you've never felt before." Kix didn't have a word for what they'd just experienced. Their species' language didn't have terms for art that changed while you observed it, that responded to your emotions, that let you step inside and become part of the creation. "Show me more," they said instead. Sarah became Kex's guide through the chaos of human artistic expression. They attended an immersive theater performance where the audience's emotional states influenced the story's direction. They experienced a mixed reality symphony where each viewer heard a different arrangement based on their brainwave patterns. "But how do you perfect these forms?" Kix asked after experiencing their 100th new art style. "If they never stayed the same, how do you achieve mastery?" Sarah laughed. "That's not the point. Human art isn't about perfection. It's about exploration. About finding new ways to express what it means to be alive." The concept was so alien that Kix's crystalline structure nearly destabilized trying to process it. Their entire society was built around the idea that art forms were discovered, not created, and that mastery meant perfect replication. But they couldn't deny the way human art made them feel. Each new experience sparked resonances in their crystal matrix that no traditional art form had ever achieved. They began to experiment, combining human techniques with their own species' abilities. Their first public performance scandalized the artistic community. Kix used their crystalline form to create a traditional harmonic sculpture, but then did the unthinkable. They began to change it. The crystal patterns shifted and flowed, responding to the emotions of the audience, incorporating human musical elements that had never been part of traditional forms. Half the audience left in protest. The other half couldn't look away. "This is corruption of pure forms," the Art Council declared. "You have abandoned perfection for life." Kix finished. For growth. For change. They were stripped of their titles, branded artistic radical. But something unexpected happened. Young artists began to seek them out. Other species, long dismissed as artistically primitive by Kix's people, began to show interest in cultural exchange. Kix opened a studio on Earth, teaching alien artists human techniques while learning their traditional forms. They created new hybrid art forms, crystalline virtual reality environments, quantum resonance interactive sculptures, temporal echo performances that evolved with each viewing. The traditional artistic establishment continued to resist until Kix created their masterpiece, a massive installation that combined every known artistic tradition into a single, ever-changing experience. Viewers entered a space where crystal harmonics met human virtual reality, where ancient songs blended with interactive digital art, where every species' concept of beauty could find expression. The Art Council came to shut it down. They stayed for 6 hours, unable to leave, their rigid concepts of artistic perfection crumbling in the face of something new and alive. "We don't understand it," they finally admitted. "That's the point," Kix replied. "Art isn't about understanding. It's about feeling, about changing, about daring to be imperfect in the pursuit of something new." The revolution in galactic art couldn't be stopped after that. Species that had spent millennia perfecting static forms began to experiment, to combine, to create. Human artistic chaos infected the galaxy's creative consciousness, spawning thousands of new art forms. Kix never regained their traditional titles. Instead, they earned a new one, created specially by the humans, artistic revolutionary. They preferred this title. It was imperfect, ever-changing, alive. just like art should be. The graduation ceremony at the Pan-Galactic University on Mars made history, though not for the reasons anyone expected. It wasn't just the first graduating class of the most diverse educational institution in known space. It was the moment the galaxy realized that humanity hadn't just joined galactic civilization. They had transformed it. Zara Chen Martinez adjusted her graduation robe, her augmented reality contact lenses displaying the names and species of her classmates as she looked around the anti-gravity auditorium. Her best friend, Hilara, an Arcanian, floated nearby, her crystalline form pulsing with excitement patterns she'd learned to display after 3 years of studying human emotional expression. "Can you believe we made it?" Hilara asked, her voice harmonic processor perfectly mimicking human intonation. "First class of the Hybrid Sciences program." "First class of everything," Zara replied, watching as more graduates filled the space. There was Kvex, a Ven cyborg who'd incorporated human biological components into their systems. Max 427, an AI who'd chosen to download themselves into a partially organic body to better understand human intuition. Each student represented something unprecedented. The children of multiple civilizations, carrying forward the best of all worlds. The ceremony began with a speech from Admiral Helena Torres, now Supreme Commander of the Combined Defense Forces. Her hair had gone gray, but her eyes still burned with the same intensity that had defeated the swarm 20 years ago. "When humanity first reached the stars," she began, "we were told we had to choose between biological and technological advancement, between emotion and logic, between chaos and order. Instead, we chose all of them, and we taught the galaxy to do the same." Zara knew the history. Her mother had been Sarah Chen, the pilot who'd first conquered the Serpent's Run. Her father was Marcus Wong, the diplomat who'd turned chaos into an art form. She'd grown up watching humanity reshape the galaxy not through conquest, but through something more powerful, inspiration. The crisis hit halfway through the ceremony. A quantum tear in space-time opened near Mars' outer orbit, threatening to destroy the planet. The old galaxy would have responded with predetermined protocols, careful deliberation, and probably evacuation. The new galaxy responded differently. Zara watched in pride as her graduating class sprang into action without orders. Hilara's crystal matrix began calculating quantum harmonics that could stabilize the tear. Kvex's cybernetic systems interfaced with Mars' defense grid, coordinating the response. Max 427's hybrid mind processed solutions faster than any pure AI or organic brain could alone. And Zara, she did what humans did best. She improvised. "Hilara, your harmonic patterns, they're not just calculations, they're music. Kvex, can you translate those patterns into energy frequencies? Max, run probability scenarios assuming the tear responds to harmonic resonance like a living system." It shouldn't have worked. The old galaxy would have said it was impossible. But this wasn't the old galaxy anymore. The combined effort of crystal harmonics, cybernetic precision, AI processing, and human intuition didn't just close the tear. It stabilized that entire sector of space, preventing future quantum disruptions. When the crisis was over, Admiral Torres hadn't finished her speech. Instead, she looked at the graduates, humans and aliens, biological and mechanical, all working together, and simply said, "I think you just gave a better graduation speech than I ever could." The galaxy changed that day, not because of the quantum tear, but because everyone watched as the first generation of humanity's children proved that the whole could be greater than the sum of its parts. Zara and her classmates went on to become leaders in their fields, but more importantly, they became teachers. They taught the next generation that strength didn't come from perfecting one approach, but from combining many. That chaos and order could dance together. That emotion and logic could enhance each other. They taught what humanity had known all along, that the universe was too big, too complex, too wonderful for any one species or approach to fully comprehend. That true advancement came not from choosing a path, but from forging new ones. The Pan-Galactic University's motto, written in every known language across its quantum crystal walls, summed it up perfectly. The future is all of us. And so humanity's greatest victory wasn't conquering the stars. It was teaching the galaxy to reach for them together, in ways no one had ever imagined before. The stars had always been there, waiting. It just took humanity's children, all of them, to show the galaxy how to dream big enough to reach them.